People who are bothered by others wearing a mask while driving. Why do you care? ITT, a tiny handful of people actually read and answered the question, but an AF ton of people answered their own question. Yeah, everyone missed the people who are bothered part of the question. It's just people saying why they're not bothered by it. And they also downvote opinions they don't like, and for some reason I can't read the answers I came for, without scrolling for an eternity because the option to sort by controversial isn't there. _arg. Such a stupid update. Sorting by controversial was one of my most used things. You can't sort by controversial anymore? I see it on the web browser. I also have it on mobile, iOS, I just have to scroll through them now. You can't pick them from a list anymore but rather have to swipe. Edit, I think I wasn't clear with what I meant, sorry. I still have the option to search by controversial, it's just on something like a sideways scroll wheel where the list was before. I can still sort by controversial on iOS, it just isn't that intuitive anymore and easier to miss. But still, thanks for the replies and tips on how to get the setting back. It's just weird when I look in my rearview mirror and some dude wearing a bloody hockey mask is behind me with a machete. It gives me the creeps. Can't get COVID if Jason hacks you to pieces first taps forehead. Well, that's not cool. Jason would be totally breaking the social distancing guidelines and putting others at risk. Not to mention that's very selfish behavior, hacking people dead during a pandemic. Remember, necessity is the mother of invention. As George Carlin once said, someone then invented the flamethrower, because there were guys way over there they wanted to set on fire. I thought it was a shock and awe weapon used for flushing people out of bunkers/trenches. Wait, never mind, he's right. Greek fire was definitely I want to set that ship on fire all the way over there. Knocks forehead in recognition of your superior intellect. Also touch this knocked man's forehead. Hey handsome Jim, do you want to see me chainsaw and hockey mask? Bart, do you want some brownies before you go to bed? Okay, like 4 months ago something like this legit happened to me. I was driving around just to get out of the house when I saw a car stop facing the wrong direction. They were in a left turn lane from my side of the road but facing oncoming traffic, and as I started cursing about how effing dumb Florida drivers were, I see that the driver is wearing a normal face mask but the passenger is wearing a effing hockey mask. Scared the absolute crap out of me. They ended up completing their dumbass illegal U-turn and passing me a few minutes later, scaring me again. I've seen a lot of stupid crap down here but that one takes the cake. I once saw someone driving with a mask on, trying to be safe in a pandemic, but they were texting and driving. Can't die from corona if you die in a car crash. First taps head. Taps head on windshield. Big brain time. Just because your brain is splattered all over your car doesn't mean it gets any larger. But it does suggest your mind is expanding, just bursting at the seams. Splattered brain time. Slaps car roof. This one can hold so many bad decisions. I've seen people pull down their mask to cough and sneeze. People are effed. I was in the ER last week, had COVID symptoms, tested negative for COVID. They put me in a COVID waiting room for 4+ hours. The lady sitting across from me clearly was sick, was COVID, and she would pull her mask down to profusely cough into her hand and then pull it back up when finished. How I escaped without getting infected is a miracle. I would get a follow-up test at a drive-through location in a few days. Well, you might not have had it when you went in, but it sounds like you had it by the time you left. If you did get it from her, you wouldn't have tested positive that day anyway. I think he should take the advice of user Desperado Vintage and get another test because he has a pretty good chance of getting it from that lady. Reddit link. And then another test 14 days after that for the exposure while getting the second test. It's tests all the way down. The incubation period is pretty long. Be careful. Yeah, my friend's family was 13 days into a 14-day quarantine after an exposure when one of them came down with it. Crazy incubation time. I see this all the time. Or they pull it down to talk. Like those 3 actions are main reason to wear a mask. I get not wanting to wear the mask if it's full of snot, but just get another mask. I see this all the time. Two people wearing masks approach each other. Both of them pull their masks down to have a face-to-face conversation that's not even remotely close to 6 feet apart. Then they put their masks back up and go on their way. Why would they ever think this is safe? Why would they ever think this is safe? You answered your own question. They don't think. Or they're only wearing them out of malicious compliance. Well, clearly you got to make sure you don't get corona from yourself. Goddamn, people are effing slow. I once had to sneeze at the store and I sneezed inside the mask. It was disgusting. But it's what's safe, so that's okay. This happened to me yesterday. I was sitting in a service waiting room for my car to be finished and sneezed hard, straight into my mask, with nearly no warning. I did cup my face in my elbow, but left the mask in place so it got the worst of it. The mask was gross for a few minutes until I found a new mask at their handy box of spare masks, but at least I wasn't sharing my germs with everyone else in that waiting room. All my spares were in the car that was being serviced. Whoops. But, thanks to the mask, the snot wasn't even on my hands. So convenient. I washed my hands, face, and mask when I got home. Well, you taking your hands off the wheel to tap your head isn't helping either. It is customary to only use one hand when tapping one's head, and the other so that they could keep typing that reply. That's how I feel buying alcohol. I put on my N95 mask, distance, carefully wash my hands all so I can go home and slowly kill myself while playing video games. Not today, Corona, it's going to be on my terms. Drinking and playing video games. My favorite type of leisure time. Could have been a delivery driver. I'm one for Domino's and we're supposed to wear a mask to reduce risk of contamination with the food. Not unlikely that DoorDash and others have similar policies. I had not even thought of this. Okay. I feel better now. That explains so much. I work for an agency that supports intellectually challenged adults. The residents work and we have to drive them to and from work. The agency provides a vehicle for each house, just a regular used vehicle with a regular license plate and no special markings whatsoever. We require the staff to wear masks when they're driving, even if they're alone, to cut down on contaminating the vehicle. One morning I was at the bank when the teller was chatting through the window while she waited for her computer to load my deposit. A car went by and she rolled her eyes about how paranoid some people are, driving around in their cars alone with masks on. I was like, actually, that was one of my staff. She just dropped her residents off at work and now she's driving the company vehicle back to the house. I'm glad to see someone finally followed my instructions. That computer spat out my deposit slip fast enough to cause whiplash and she went to the next window without another word. I was in the car with my boss just a few days later running a work errand and we passed a masked man alone in a car. She made a similar comment that you have to wonder about people who drive around by themselves wearing masks in their cars. I just looked at her and raised an eyebrow. It took an embarrassing amount of time for that light bulb to come on. At least we know it wasn't COVID that killed them. I started minding my business in 2004, and I have to say I recommend it. I see tons of wild crap. I may look to be sure I'm seeing correctly. 9/10 I shrug and go about my day. I started minding my business in 2004, and I have to say I recommend it. I'm going to put this on a t-shirt. I would buy it, even though I was born in 2006. People from 2006 can write? Damn, I am getting old. As a parent of a 14-year-old, it surprises me daily. Ouch. Why'd you have to go and give us the number? Now I feel old. And now I just realized that my 40th is roughly 6 months away. The future is now, old man. Are you telling me wearing an onion on my belt is now out of fashion? Only yellow onions are out. We can get white ones now because the war is over. I just realized that if the Kaiser has his way, this cursed year would be called Decadi Edit, my first gold. Thanks. Give me 5 Bs for a quarter, you'd say. We would wear onions on our belt, which was the style at the time. Mine cost me 5 Bs. I used to be with it, but then they changed what it was. Now what I'm with isn't it, and what it is seems weird and scary to me, and it'll happen to you, too. Great story about this. My Dungeons and Dragons group one night we're in the middle of a session and one player shows up like 2 hours late. He's drunk, not crap face, but obviously toasty. We notice the right half of his face is shaved clean and the left side of it still has a beard. A bit later he asks me if he can make some coffee and I say sure. We get the maker out, make some coffee and we look over after a few minutes and he's standing next to my cat doing squats while holding a cup of fresh coffee. Crap's already weird and no one really knows what to think. He finally sits down to play and he pulls a partially eaten red onion out of his pocket and took a bite. Everyone at the table started cracking up because everything that led up to this was bizarre enough, and that was just the icing on the cake. WTF, are you 4 years old? What year is it, again? I continue to be amazed when I hear about someone born after 2000 who is not an infant. The logical part of my brain gets it, but some other part of me is shocked they can speak. Crap homie, a bunch of them are voting adults. I'm a 2000s baby old enough to drive, vote, and work in a nursing home, and have done/am doing all three. Christ's sake guys, I meant I'm old enough to take care of old folks. Ah yes. The three biggest privileges that come with age. Driving, voting, and working in a nursing home. I remember on my 16th birthday I said, gee, this driver's license is great, but I can't wait until I'm old enough to work in a nursing home. Haha, this made me grin. If my calculations are correct, it means he's 14, but that doesn't feel right. He can't be 14, I was 14 before, and so new people can't just now be 14. That's crazy talk. Thanks for making us all feel ancient. Jesus lol. Kids now born in 2006 are not even kids anymore, 14 and crap. I feel old AF and imp only 23. I used to think anyone born 2000 plus were babies. 14 is very much still a kid laughing out loud. I'm in my 40s and still consider people in their early 20s as kids. I'm in my early 20s and still consider people in their early 20s as kids. Excuse me, what? Their latest product offerings are wonderful. Web link. Was 100% expecting to be rickrolled by this link. Ah. A New Yorker. Beat me to this. As a New Yorker who has recently left NY, I'm surprised by how much minding your own damn business is a foreign concept to many other people. I feel like it's a coping mechanism for New Yorkers, whereas it's more of a courtesy elsewhere. A coping mechanism, I prefer to think of it as broader experience. NYC has high population density, so you just run into way more people, so you just see weird things more frequently. I love this part of living in NYC. My working theory is always that I am at most the second weirdest person anyone will see on a given day, which makes me feel a lot less self-conscious if I'm laughing out loud at a podcast on the subway or dragging furniture across town or whatever. I had to work in NY for a couple months. One time on a train from Long Island to Manhattan, I witnessed two grown men having a dead serious, angry and expletive-filled argument over whether or not Batman could kick Superman's ass. It was odd. These arguments work a lot better when they don't include Batman. Because only Batman had the foresight for a plan and materials to take down any Justice League member in the case they went rogue. There's no man-to-man fight. Batman has more self-awareness than to believe he'd win those without each member's own kryptonite. So long as you're using headphones when you listen to the podcasts, you're good. IDC if you're laughing to yourself, or singing along under your breath. As long as you don't intrude on my thing, we're good. Exactly this. I think it's also a practice in tolerance. Sure, you see a lot of weird crap in NYC. But you also see people of very different cultures doing normal things to them that you simply will not understand. I think this builds that tolerance because you're forced to accept vastly different people, since it's just too much work to understand everything going around you all the time. In smaller towns this isn't so much the case with the monoculture, so when something is different it really sticks out and some people feel the need to put it back into place. Getting my family to grasp this concept is an ongoing struggle for me. I'm literally the only one with an education or who has spent more than a night or two in a major city. They think I'm a lunatic because I flat out give 0 Fs about what someone in my tiny hometown, or anyone else for that matter, does with their life. Not my circus, not my monkeys. No living person has the energy to not mind their own business in a real city. There's just too much business all over, business splattered on the walls and dripping off the curb, to mind anything but that business which is strictly one's own. The kind of person who has to have a comment and an opinion about everything and everyone, all the time, would burn out and fall into a coma in less than 2 hours in a place like NYC. I've been there once and, as somebody with pretty severe anxiety, I have never felt more comfortable in my life. I saw 2 women walking down the street with just stickers covering their nipples and vulva, and the rest of their clothes were literally paint. I also saw a man with a rather large gash in his forehead that was still bleeding. None of them turned any heads. I figure nobody gave a crap whether or not my outfit looked okay. Oh man, I hadn't thought about it in a long time, but you're right. There's this weird paradox of anonymity in crowded places like that. The entire time I lived in or spent time in a city, I felt vaguely invisible. It's living in the suburbs that's a effing nightmare. You'd fit right in at Glastonbury Festival. Come try it out. What's that? Oh, that's just a homeless dude jacking off in the crosswalk. Don't mind him. He's asking for change. Well, that's up to you. I recommend just walking past. I just want to get past him either before or after he climaxes. Why bother with the show if you don't experience the finale? I saw a guy pooping in a cardboard box walking down to the subway. I got right out of there. If he was using a box, that's a lot better than the usual. Not a native New Yorker, clearly. This Karen at the gas pump on the other side of mine saw someone wearing a mask while driving and said, "Oh my God, wearing a mask in your car, Jesus Christ, people are dumb." I said, "It takes 0 effort to mind your own business," and she got all huffy and said, "You're right, it does." And tried to throw it back in my face that I should mind my own business. Like, good one, bitch. Hope your day is as pleasant as you are. Hope your day is as pleasant as you are. This is my first time hearing this phrase, but it is brilliant and I will be using it constantly from now on. It may in fact be the best thing I have heard in all of 2020. She kind of had you though. But you could have doubled down by repeating, "You're right, it does," and then making an exaggerated pivot away from her for the remainder of your fill. Yeah, never mind, I'm a petty bitch. Thank you for watching. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube. And share them with your friends. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. We welcome your comments below. Another of our videos will begin shortly.